A city wakes to the chilling discovery of another body. A young woman named Clara lies in the center of an abandoned warehouse, her body a canvas of horror. Carved into her flesh are symbols, not of any known language, but of something far older, something forgotten by time. They are the marks of the sculptor, a killer whose identity is as elusive as the meaning behind his gruesome art, his eyes tracing the lines etched into Clara's skin. Each symbol, precise and deliberate, whispers of an ancient ritual, a macabre connection to a past that should have remained buried. The air is thick with the scent of blood and the heavy silence of death. They are messages. Clara was an artist, tapestry of vibrant colors and bold strokes, now reduced to this grim tableau. But why her? What moment in her life did the sculptor deem significant enough to mark her for death? As the crime scene unit begins their meticulous work, Marcus's thoughts drift to the other victims. Each one had their own symbols, their own stories told in blood. The first, a banker, had symbols representing wealth and greed. The second, a teacher, bore marks of knowledge and betrayal. The pattern was there, hidden beneath the surface, like the shadow of an ancient cult, one that worshipped something they called the shadow. A cult whose practices were thought extinct, now eerily resurrected through these murders. Marcus feels the weight of the city's fear pressing down on him. He knows time is not on his side. Each symbol, each murder, is a countdown to the next. The sculptor is crafting his masterpiece, and Marcus must decode the cryptic messages before another life is claimed. He whispers to himself, "What are you trying to tell us?" The answer lies in the past, in the shadows of history, where the truth about these symbols might just reveal the face of the killer. But with each passing second, the darkness grows deeper, and the city holds its breath, waiting for the next stroke of the sculptor's deadly chisel. In the dim light of early morning, the city's underbelly reveals another of its secrets. A young woman, Clara, lies lifeless in the heart of an abandoned warehouse, her body a grotesque masterpiece. Symbols, alien and ancient, are carved into her skin with a precision that speaks of a mind both methodical and mad. These aren't mere marks. They are the signatures of the sculptor, a serial killer whose identity remains cloaked in as much mystery as the meanings behind his lethal art. Detective Marcus Reed, a seasoned investigator with eyes that have seen too much, stands over Clara's body. His gaze follows the intricate lines, each a clue to a puzzle that spans centuries. The air around him is heavy, laden with the coppery tang of blood and the oppressive silence that follows death. Yet his mind is anything but still. It churns with questions. "These aren't random," Marcus mutters to himself, his voice barely above a whisper. Clara's life, once vibrant with the promise of youth and art, now lay before him as a dark, twisted reflection. Her canvases once celebrated life. Now, her own body bore the marks of her demise. But why her? What moment in her existence did the sculptor find worthy of this grim honor? His thoughts drifting to the other victims. Each had their own story, their own symbols. A banker with marks of wealth and avarice. A teacher with symbols of knowledge and deceit. A pattern, elusive yet undeniable, emerged from the shadows of these crimes. The symbols, Marcus realized, were not just random acts of violence. They were messages, perhaps warnings or confessions, from a mind steeped in the lore of an ancient cult, a cult that worshipped the shadow, a figure or force long thought to be a myth, now seemingly reborn through these murders. He understands the urgency. Each symbol, each murder, ticks like a clock towards the next. The sculptor is not just killing, he's creating, and Marcus must unravel the cryptic narrative before another life is sacrificed. "What are you trying to tell us?" Marcus asks the silent, blood-soaked warehouse. The answer, he knows, is buried in the past, in the dark corners of history where the truth about these symbols might reveal the killer's identity. But time is slipping away, and with each passing moment, The darkness deepens. The city's tension mounts, all waiting for the next inevitable stroke of the sculptor's deadly chisel. Marcus Reed steps out of the warehouse, the morning light casting long shadows that seem to echo the darkness. His mind is a whirlpool of theories, each one pulling him deeper into the murky waters of this case. He pulls out his phone, dialing a number he knows by heart.
Sarah, it's Marcus. We need to talk. Now.
Sarah Klein, an expert in ancient languages and cult practices,
Meets Marcus at a small, secluded cafe where the clink of coffee cups provides a semblance of normalcy. She's already spread out her notes, her face etched with concern.
Marcus begins, sliding a photo across the table. They're not just random acts of violence. They're deliberate, with a purpose. Each one ties back to a moment in the victim's life.
Sarah examines the photo, her fingers tracing the lines. These are from an old pagan cult, Marcus. They believed in the shadow, a force or entity that could manipulate fate. Each symbol represents a pivotal moment, a choice that changed the course of someone's life.
What's the end game?
Sarah looks up, her eyes meeting his. The cult believed that by marking these moments, they could control or even predict future events. Maybe our killer thinks he's doing the same, altering destinies, perhaps even his own.
The conversation shifts as Marcus's phone vibrates. A text from his partner, Detective Elena Vasquez. Another body, same MO, meet me at the scene.
The new scene is a stark contrast to the warehouse, this time in a quiet suburban home. The victim, an older man named Robert, was a retired judge. Symbols are carved into his chest, less intricate, but no less chilling. Elena, with her usual calm demeanor, nods at Marcus.
This one's different. The symbols are less complex, but they're there. Looks like our killer's getting impatient or desperate.
Marcus examines the symbols, his mind racing. This one, it's about justice, isn't it? A turning point where Robert made a significant ruling.
Yes, Elena confirms. He overturned a conviction that led to a man's release. A man who later committed another crime.
The pieces start to fall into place. Marcus feels the weight of realization. He's not just killing. He's correcting what he sees as mistakes in fate. Each victim had a moment where their life could have gone another way, and he's punishing them for the path they chose. Back at the station, Marcus and Sarah delve into the history of the cult. They find references to a ritual called the Sculptor's Rite, where the cult members would carve symbols into the flesh of the living to influence the future, Marcus says, urgency in his voice. A narrative.
Sarah nods, her fingers flying over her laptop. If we can predict the next symbol, we might predict the next victim.
Sarah finds a pattern in the symbols, a sequence that suggests the next victim will be someone who made a life-altering decision related to love or betrayal.
Marcus's mind flashes to a recent case, a woman named Julia, who left her abusive husband. Julia, he says, his voice tight. She's next. They rush to Julia's apartment, the night air cold and foreboding. They find her, alive but terrified, her door ajar. The sculptor had been there, but something, or someone, had scared him off.
As they secure Julia, Marcus's phone rings. It's a voice he knows, distorted by a device but unmistakably familiar.
Detective Reed, you're getting too close. But remember, every action has a consequence. You've altered your own fate now.
The line goes dead, leaving Marcus with a chilling realization. The sculptor isn't just a killer, he's a player in a game of fate. And now, Marcus is part of it too. The hunt has just become personal, and the city's shadows seem to whisper secrets of the past, guiding Marcus towards the inevitable confrontation with the sculptor. The pre-climactic scene unfolds in the dim light of Marcus's office, where the walls are lined with case files, maps, and photographs of the victims. The room is a testament to the relentless pursuit of justice, the air thick with the scent of old coffee and the weight of sleepless nights. Marcus sits at his desk, surrounded by the chaos of his investigation. his eyes red from lack of sleep. The call from the sculptor has left him with a cold knot in his stomach, the realization that he's now a part of this twisted narrative. He stares at the latest symbol, the one found at Julia's apartment, a symbol of betrayal, carved hastily as if the sculptor was interrupted. Sarah enters quietly, her presence a calm amidst the storm of Marcus's thoughts. She places a new set of documents on the desk, her movements deliberate. "I've found something, Marcus," she says, her voice steady but urgent. "There's a pattern, but it's not just about the victims' lives. It's about the sculptor's life, too." Marcus looks up, his interest piqued. "Go on." "The symbols aren't just marking moments in the victims' lives. They're also markers of significant events in the killer's life. Each victim, in some way, reflects a part of his past, a turning point where he felt wronged or betrayed." Marcus leans back, absorbing this new layer of complexity. So he's not just punishing them, he's reliving his own pain through them. "Exactly," Sarah confirms. "And look at this! They form a geometric pattern, a pentagram, with the last murder site at the center. The next symbol, if we follow this pattern, should be about redemption or revenge." Marcus's eyes narrow as he studies the map. Redemption or revenge. That could mean he's planning something big, something final. His phone vibrates again. "You need to see this," her face grim, leading them to a hidden room in the basement. Inside, mirroring those on the victims. Realization dawning, Elena points to a photograph on the wall, one of whom looks eerily familiar. "But who's that?" His breath catching. "That's my father." The room spins around Marcus as memories flood back. His father, a historian, had always been fascinated with ancient cultures. This was beyond anything Marcus could have imagined. Sarah speaks, her voice a whisper. "The sculptor isn't just killing for revenge or to alter fate. He's trying to bring back something, or someone, from the past. He's using these murders as a ritual." The horror of the situation dawning on him. He's not just killing, he's summoning. He believes these acts will bring back the shadow, and he's using my father's research, his legacy, as part of this. The tension in the room is palpable, the air charged with the gravity of their discovery. Marcus's phone rings again, the same distorted voice from before, now taunting. "Detective Reed, you have become part of the narrative. You're no longer just the hunter, you're the hunted." The voice echoes in Marcus's mind as he steps away from the altar, his heart pounding with a mix of dread and determination, their faces reflecting the gravity of the situation. Marcus declares, his voice firm. He's after something bigger, something that involves my father's legacy. The team moves swiftly, piecing together the clues with a newfound urgency. Sarah, with her expertise, deciphers the last symbol, the one that signifies the final act of the ritual. It's a symbol of rebirth, Marcus. He's trying to bring back the shadow through this final act. Elena, always the pragmatist, adds, "And we know where he'll strike next. The pattern leads back to the warehouse where Clara was found. It's the center of the pentagram." As they prepare to confront the sculptor, Marcus feels the weight of his own history pressing down on him. The connection to his father, the cult, and now this killer. It's all intertwined in a way that feels both personal and cosmic, the air thick with anticipation. The large, decrepit building looms before them, its shadows deep and foreboding. Inside, the air is musty, filled with the echoes of past horrors. Moving silently, they navigate through the dark corridors, each step measured, each breath held. The tension is palpable, the silence broken only by the occasional drip of water or the distant sound of traffic outside. Then, in the heart of the warehouse, they find him. The sculptor, his back turned, is kneeling before an altar similar to the one in Robert's basement. The symbols are drawn in chalk, glowing eerily under the flickering light of candles. He's chanting, his voice a low, rhythmic murmur, as if coaxing something from the shadows.
Police! Drop your weapon! Marcus shouts, his voice cutting through the eerie atmosphere. The sculptor turns slowly, his face obscured by a mask, his eyes cold and calculating. Detective Reed. I knew you'd come. You've been part of this from the beginning, whether you knew it or not. Marcus steps forward, his gun steady, but his mind races. Why all this?
The sculptor laughs, a chilling sound that reverberates off the concrete walls. Your father was one of us, Marcus. He sought to understand the shadow, to harness its power. But he turned away, left us. And now, his legacy will help me bring it back. You see, every symbol, every life I've taken has been a step closer to that goal. The confrontation escalates as the sculptor, with a sudden, violent movement, grabs a stone tablet, ready to strike. Marcus's training kicks in. He fires, the sound of the gunshot echoing like thunder in the enclosed space. The sculptor staggers, the tablet falling from his grasp. As he falls, the mask slips, revealing a face Marcus recognizes, a face from his past, a face that should have remained a memory. It's a former colleague, someone who had been close to his father, someone who had disappeared years ago, mingling with realization. The sculptor, now on the ground, his life ebbing away, looks up at Marcus with a mix of defiance and sorrow. I was dead, Marcus. Dead to the world that had forgotten him, but alive in the shadows that embraced him. The sculptor's eyes, once alight with a twisted purpose, now dim with the finality of his defeat. Marcus watches, his gun still raised, as the man who had haunted the city's nightmares lies defeated before him. The warehouse, a place of death and darkness, now echoes with the silence of closure. It's a mix of accusation and sorrow. You killed in the name of the shadow. But why? What did you hope to achieve? The sculptor, his voice weak but still laced with conviction, replies, to bring back what was lost, to restore the balance that your father disrupted. He was supposed to be the key, Marcus. But he betrayed us, left us to the shadows. Marcus feels the weight of his father's legacy, the unintended consequences of his research now manifesting in this macabre scene, he counters, his voice steady despite the turmoil inside him. The sculptor's breathing becomes labored, his life slipping away. Perhaps, he gasps. But in death, I've shown you the path.